A tribute to Charles H. Leidy. Charles H. Leidy, also known as Chuck, Dad, Pappy, and at the end Mr. President, was born on January 29th, 1937 in Waterfall, Fulton County. He left us to be with God on July 1, 2016. His father, a coal miner who worked as a supervisor for the local coal company, and his mother, who worked in the home, raised two daughters, Evelyn and Imogene, with little Chuck right in the middle. He often shared stories about his childhood, such as the wonder and awe of summertime playing in the creek, walking to the country store, or using the large coal trucks to tow him and friends up the mountain on their bikes so they could ride down the steep hill. He credited his mother for instilling in him the importance of knowing and honoring God and the discipline associated with the times he might have forgotten what that meant as a child. He also told of the time his father took him deep into the coal mine on a Saturday morning with the intention of sending a clear message that he did not want his son to do this job for a living. Inspired, Chuck graduated from Houstontown High School in 1955 and attended a trade school where he focused on manipulating sheet metal. These formative experiences began to shape Chuck's outlook on life and became the foundation of his priorities later in life of honoring God, family, country, and work. It was his first job at Howard Johnson's restaurant on the Pennsylvania Turnpike that would impact his life significantly. There, he met a stylish, classy, and very attractive young waitress who wanted nothing to do with him. Despite his effort, Anna Mae was more interested in her work than this young man who continually tried to garner her attention. A teddy bear, purchased in the gift shop by Chuck for Anna Mae, could have been the game changer that led to a packed church wedding on June 24, 1956. A 60-year marriage included the birth of 4 sons, 10 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. 60 years of truly living the vows of marriage through good times and bad times, happy and sad times, through sickness and health. A 60-year marriage that created a family rooted in love. Is there anything more powerful, more valuable, or more beautiful than that? Chuck's namesake, Charles Michael, was his firstborn. The 3 lived in a mobile home south of Breezewood and were joined by David 3 years later. The family moved into the home place in Breezewood and added Steve 3 years after David. 7 years later, and much to Steve's dismay, a 4th son named Mark was on the way. The true measure of an individual's impact on the world can be reflected in a variety of ways. For Chuck, the impact was most significant as a family man, a father. Although he liked a nice car, material possessions were never very important to him. Instead, his family was his priority. Teaching his boys to be humble, kind, respectful young men was his mission. He taught by example. The boys, as they will always affectionately be known, selected a few lessons they felt their father instilled in them. The first was to know your priorities in life and to live by those priorities. God first, then family, country, and work. Saying our prayers before every meal, before going to bed, and any time we needed to consider the right thing to do was instilled in all of us. He believed family is the core of our humanity, and how proud he was of his family. Even though our dad did not serve in the military, he was very patriotic and loved what this country represents. The American flag is a symbol of our freedom and represented the men who died to make sure that that freedom is not taken. Dad firmly believed all who lived in America should honor our country. He also believed in a strong work ethic. Often he would say, work hard and things will work out. He respected anyone who worked, no matter what their profession, and always encouraged us to respect the value of work. David, reaped the benefits of this directly when Dad supposedly retired, but continued to get up every morning and travel to the shop to help David with his business. He loved being busy, and he also took credit for David's success. Although never exactly shared with us in this way, the next priority in life was probably sports. Dad played soccer and baseball in high school and loved the character building that team sports taught. The idea of being part of something bigger than yourself and the discipline required to prepare to play are two examples of the value of sport. Then there was Pittsburgh sports. Steelers, Pirates, and Penguins. There was no vote in our house as to which teams we supported. Dad had a simple rule of never missing kickoff, and that rule ensured two things. One, he would be able to see the beginning of the game instead of shopping or being elsewhere. And two, he would be able to see the entire game because everything in the house stopped when the Steelers started. Some of our fondest memories involve sports. Mike remembers going with Dad to the 1974 All-Star Game in Pittsburgh, and we all remember the run of attending Steeler football games in the playoffs with our father once we had reached adulthood. Lesson 3 was a simple yet profound message. 5 minutes of foolish fun can ruin the rest of your life. Consider the challenge of raising 4 ornery boys in a sometimes unforgiving world. Our parents worried about us on a daily basis. Dad typically found a way to be firm and compassionate and very clear about his expectations. Steve, the apple of Dad's eye, did his best to make sure Dad got plenty of practice keeping us focused. The message about 5 minutes of foolish fun changing the course of our lives has been passed to the next generation of Leidys. The fourth of the 5 lessons centered on the idea of always being a contributing member of our community and to be leaders. Once again, Dad modeled this as he served in the Lions Club and as its president, served the football boosters in the Little League. He joined the school board after his 4 boys graduated. He felt compelled to give back to the public school that provided us with our education. Dad believed leadership was a duty. He supported Mark's education and career tremendously and was so proud when he received his doctorate. Finally, having a higher standard was just an expectation. The golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated, was enhanced by our Father to be always treat others better than you want to be treated. He believed that everyone should be respected. As young men, we were expected to show women the respect and dignity they deserved. Simple things like using our manners and holding the door for others are things our dad made sure we understood as important. These lessons, and many others, were often shared, revisited, and discussed over a cup of coffee. There is no official record of when he had his first cup of coffee, but we know that once he started, coffee became a part of who he was. The truth is that as much as he loved his coffee, it was the experience of slowing down and having a conversation with someone that was the best part. Coffee on a Saturday morning with your son or brother-in-law or friends, coffee for the Sunday school group, coffee on a Monday morning at the convenience store, coffee during a Steelers game, or coffee talking about a significant life decision. It was representative of his humble and thoughtful approach to life. There are very few things a cup of coffee, a cup of hot coffee, could not make better, including the 3-month battle for his life in the hospital. As the 4 boys became young men, each got married and began the next generation of Leidys. Dad treated every addition to the family, Rosa, Lisa, Sherry, Tiffany, and Tracy, as one of his own. Chuck, Dad, became Pappy, and for the first time 3 beautiful baby girls entered his life. Bailey, Casey, and Megan gave Pappy a respite from dealing with boys and a perspective on being a grandfather, a role he embraced with tremendous pride and love. As the years passed, more boys had arrived with the birth of Luke and Anthony. This was followed by Cambria and Kevin joining a rapidly growing group of grandchildren. In the meantime, he was blessed by 3 additional grandchildren who joined the family at one time. Shane, Chance, and Paige immediately fell under the spell of a loving grandfather who knew just what to say and how to say it. When the grandchildren were asked to share thoughts on Pappy, it was clear how much they loved and adored this man. His infectious smile and wink and witty personality, his constant joking, often about boyfriends and girlfriends, the periodic disciplinary wag of his finger, which often was followed by another quick smile and wink, are just a few of the thoughts shared by the grandchildren. Although the great-grandchildren, Braxton, Colton, Kaysen, Alika, are too young to share their thoughts, Pappy's legacy will live through them by the example he modeled and the morality he established in his family. As you probably know, the last 3 months were the most difficult of Chuck's entire life. His battle was intense and at times seemed inhumane. Yet, we believe it was all part of God's plan. Dad condensed into 3 months innumerable reminders and examples of the character he modeled and the man he was his entire life. Even on the worst days, he exemplified grace and strength and humor. In Pittsburgh, when he was told that he would be coming off the vent and we were not sure what would happen next, he nodded and without a voice indicated he wanted to watch the Pirates, then winked and smiled. When asked about how he was getting through this ordeal, he said, "God and I have gotten pretty close. I pray a lot." He was transferred to Harrisburg and began to influence an entirely new group of doctors, nurses, aides, and custodians. He earned a reputation for his toughness and impacted everyone who came into his room. Even though he was the patient, he always checked on how the staff was doing and said please and thank you every time he was poked or prodded. He was often able to convince nurses, against doctors' orders, to get him a cup of coffee, even if just a sip. After his passing, several doctors sent messages to the family commenting on how Dad had such dignity and character. The most impactful communication actually came from a night custodian named Tyler, who Dad had befriended during his stay at the hospital. Tyler commented several times about how Dad simply had a presence about him. In fact, the custodian referred to him as the president because of the way Dad held himself even in the worst of times. On the evening of his death, family had all left for the night, knowing Dad would pass on his own time. Tyler, however, was doing his work in Dad's room. Tyler left a note at bedside that reflected the impact Dad could have on people. The content of the note follows. Though you cannot read this, just know that in this moment you were not alone. Godspeed, Mr. President. Your friend Ty. Godspeed, Pappy. Godspeed, Dad. Godspeed, Chuck. You will be missed, and your legacy will impact this world through all you've touched.